You may follow any changes to our schedule on our Facebook page. We started right now with Andriy Lysenko, the Colonel and the Information Center spokesman of the National Security and Defense Council. Right after Mr. Lysenko, we will have Volodymyr Polyvy, the Deputy Chief of the Information Center of the National Security and Defense Council spokesman, who will tell us about the legal status of the Russians who are involved in the conflict in Donbass. І вже зараз я запрошую полковника Андрія Лисенка з оперативної інформації.
Good afternoon, dear colleagues. Despite the regime of ceasefire, the situation in Ore is not simple. There are shelling against the Ukrainian positions. At the same time, the nature of these shellings is different. As a rule, they fire from mortars and from machine guns, not from heavy artillery. During the last day, there were shelling near Avdiivka, Donetsk, Píske, Chernenko, Волонтерівка, Павлопіль, Тоненьке, Сартана, Нікішине, and Нижня Кринка, Donetsk region. And Сміле, Щастя, Комишуваха, Золоте, and Orlivsky and Luhansk region. Shelling from territory of Russian territory, there were no shelling. At the same time, Russian infiltrators, they provocate, they shell against the position of terrorists and who act as Ukrainian militarymen. Last night there were shellings in Donetsk, and there was shelling from train station in Donetsk, and also there is shelling on outskirts of Shast and Luhansk region. Because of the threat of shelling, and we stopped 3 pass points, transit points were closed down in Volnovakha and Shastia. Only 4 continued to work in the area of ATO. Yesterday in Yaslo, in Heretsk, Russians built their own block post right across the block post of National Guards of Ukraine. After that, our military men suggested to leave the block post because Russian column was breakthrough. That was the threat, and if they shell against it, everybody would be destroyed. And then there was a meeting of OSCE with the terrorists, and they agreed that the distance would be kept between the parties. But right away, after the OSCE representative left, the block post was surrounded from 3 sides, and with equipment for tanks T-72 2 BMP, 2 and 4 VAC, and our militarymen stay on the block post, but there are no active fights there. Yesterday at 1840, against the border guards near Telman, there was a military attack, and the border guards had to fire back. Border guards kicked back terrorists, and also they captured a vehicle, and also they found then at 9:30 an infiltrator was captured, and regions that they are under control of terrorists. There is the equipment of Russian forces is moving, and also militarymen. Russia is accumulating the armed forces during the last in Kherson region. During the last weeks, armed forces concentrated not less than 64 tanks, about 100 APCs, and several systems of Grad, Urahan, and Buk missile system. Not far from Chernomorsk, there is a field hospital. They opened it in the Black Sea. There are 7 big paratrooper ships of Black Sea Navy, and one ship for paratroopers from the Baltic Navy. Along the border, Russian and Donetsk regional Russians do engineer work to build positions on the territory of Russia. In Mariupol, the situation is stable and under control. The first deputy commander of National Guards of Ukraine, Lieutenant General Lysenko had an overview of artillery park. Artillery stock of ATO. All artillery after fights was fixed and brought to necessary technical condition. The President is planning, the President Poroshenko is planning to visit Mariupol, Russia, to destabilize the situation not only in Ukraine but in other countries, according to the statement of former Foreign Minister of Moldova, Kosovo. There are green men that hire young people and they teach them how to use guns, light guns. And more than 500 people were hired, and they were trained in Rostov, Moscow, Transnistria, and Belce. Today, in the southwest of the Black Sea, there will be two-party military navy trainings between of Ukraine and the U.S. The goal is to run an intentional operation to how to act. They will train how to act under crisis, and there will be 12 ships of support, 5 ships of Navy of Ukraine, and 2 ships from State Border Service of Ukraine. According to official information, during the last day, we didn't lose any military men. Information about wounded will be by 5 o'clock. The situation in towns and cities in the area of conflict in Luhansk, the situation is quite calm. There is no electricity, water, and communication. They sell only the most necessary food. Because of what terrorists did, it was impossible to provide food, healthcare, and also fuel. And local services, they're trying municipal services, they try to renovate the infrastructure, and they fix electricity lines, and they will try to provide electricity. In Luhansk region, in Andriy, which is under terrorists, banks don't work, and people run out of cash. There is no water in the city until now. In the city council, they give humanitarian assistance, 1 loaf of bread for 4 days. In Rovinky and Sverdlovsk, terrorists rob mines. They take coal from mines, from 2 mines. On liberated territories from peaceful life is improved, and because of the actions of the government in Donetsk region, 27 of 39 unemployment centers are functioning. 19 of them, they pay pay out welfare. Also, there is this state employment service in Donetsk started to work in Luhansk region. Among 30 employment centers, 15 function. 14 of them, they pay out welfare. In main department of pension fund in the Donetsk region is functioning from Mariupol as office. And in Yanoswata, in Yanoswati district, and in Starobeshevsky district in Donetsk region. Because of that, in Donetsk region, the payment of pensions is done in 21 districts and cities. In Luhansk, 13 districts and cities. From the 1st of April until the 5th of September of this year in Donetsk and Luhansk regions, pensions were paid, and the sum is about 16 billion hryvnia. was paid out as former pensions. Yesterday, the president spoke to German Chancellor Angela Merkel. The president underlined that it's necessary to keep to all the agreed positions, and also introduction of the monitoring and verification regime of ceasefire from OSCE, and there is a progress. And he informed that at the request of the president, Ukrainian armed forces are ready to support introduction of necessary procedures. The head of Foreign Ministry of Germany, Frank-Walter Steinmeier, held that for long-term ceasefire, it requires a strong political will of Kiev and Moscow called everything to do everything for realization of Minsk agreements. OSCE created a mechanism to consider cases of violation of ceasefire regime and also calls countries participants in the near future to enlarge the mission and also to offer candidates who have necessary experience. And that's what Didier Buchhalter, the head of OSCE, told. He thanked the special monitoring mission in Ukraine for taken measures, and as a result of Minsk protocol, Buchhalter confirmed that during 2 days, monitoring mission OSCE in Ukraine redislocated 59 monitors with experience of monitoring of ceasefire and puts efforts for further enlargement of for further manning them. The representative of the State Department of the U.S., Mary Hart, confirmed that NATO would support Ukraine, and he drew attention to the statement of President Obama as to sanctions against financial, energy, and defense sectors of Russian American senators, Republicans John McCain and Lindsey Graham, stated that this situation is very difficult and thousands of Russians invaded into Ukraine, and they called the West not to create one more Transnistria region there. That's it. Your questions, please.
I'm sure you have them. Please comment on the statement of Yuri Lysenko. He stated that 4 NATO countries will give us armaments, and these countries say that this information is not correct. As soon as we get any technical or any type of assistance, we will inform you about that. And the second question, could you please tell the settlements Kuznetsova, Mikhailovka, Grekova, Alexandrovka, Первомайska, Shevchenko, are they under the control of Ukrainian or terrorists or Russian military? There are many settlements which are such where there are neither terrorists nor Ukrainian military, because they are not in the strategically important places. Is there any information as to the exchange of prisoners with Russians and how the Ukrainian military react to violation of ceasefire by Russian military starting from Friday, when the president got the information about the beginning of the peaceful process and introducing the regime of ceasefire. He took under his personal control the process of the exchange of hostages and detained, and that process has started. It's going on to get all the information as to those who are hostages. At the security service, we have the intersectoral department where people go, and with every day we get more and more information. The work is going on. Every day we conduct negotiations, we get positive results every day, but we will inform you about the achieved results. As to the reaction of Ukrainian military, fulfill the regime of ceasefire, but in case of direct threat for their lives, they will open fire in response, and they will stay at the positions which they had before Friday. So Ukrainian military really maintain this regime of ceasefire. Olena Talaeva, TV channel Kyiv said, the expert said that he saw you in the underground and you said that the country which says the truth will win. I would like to thank you for truth. They are regrouping in Crimea. There are two lines of defense at the near Kalanchak. They are getting ready. There should be two lines of defense. In Maidan, for example, when the first barricades were ruined, we had the second line of barricades, and then we could oppose. Are military doing anything like that? In fact, if you do not see military, that does not mean that they are not there. A good disguise is one of main factors of getting victory. I would like to ensure that at the southern direction we have enough forces and means to stop the direct aggression of the enemy. Besides, I would like to inform that the forces and equipment are being delivered there. I cannot disseminate information about numbers and directions. Thank you. The question will be in English. Wait.
Ви вже можете не представлятися, я вас знаю.
I know you may not introduce yourself already.
I have two questions. First one, when the monitoring mission of the OSCE for the ceasefire will start? And the second one is the weapon supply from Russia still going on, or did they stop supplying across the border?
Перше запитання щодо моніторингової місії. Чи почалася вже робота?
Українська сторона
The Ukrainian side is ready to receive the representatives of monitoring mission right now. As soon as the representatives arrive, the Ukrainian side will ensure all conditions for effective work of the representatives of OSCE. And the second question, now, during this day, we have not fixed any movement across the border with Ukraine of any equipment. Thank you. During the previous briefings, the information was disseminated that near Mariupol, the parity of forces, there's parity of forces and there are enough equipment and personnel to stop the aggression from the east. And the monitoring from some reliable sources says that there are several hundreds of military who are holding the offense of the other side, and that could be not enough. And the second, adding to this question, many people in Mariupol want to join the battalions of territorial defense, to the armed forces of Ukraine, so that with the armament in hand, repel the occupation. So, in order to physically and psychologically healthy people of Ukraine, patriots, so that they can have military training in Mariupol. For that, the headquarters for defense has been set up, and the second line of defense, even though Markieva says, I have given all the equipment. As to your first question, people who are at the first line, they are observing the situation and they are immediately reacting to any movements from Russians. The lady was right saying that we have several lines of defense. the line which is not in the city, so that the city is not shelled. It's not far from the city, and there's heavy artillery there and other systems which at a big distance can hit the enemy, who, God save us from that, can start movement to Mariupol. And secondly, as to people who in Mariupol want to take weapons in hand, armaments in hand, the main value for us is our people. Until we have professional military, they will be exercising their mission, saving lives of peaceful population. But if it happens so that they cannot cope with that, but this should not happen, then the citizens can take weapons in hand and can defend their city. But this will not be the case. Mariupol is the model city, the example of Ukrainians who will be standing for the city, and by their spirit they scare the enemies. Washington Post.
Yes, you've described already several lapses, in fact many lapses of the ceasefire. At what point do you have so many violations of the ceasefire that you cease to have one at all, and how close are you now to that point?
Thank you.
Дякую. Ukrainian military are sticking to the ceasefire regime, but we are monitoring all the violations which are exercised by the terrorists and Russian military. We understand that the shellings take place by terrorists. Russian military are doing provocations because they understand the responsibility which may take place if they stop the conditions of ceasefire, if they start the open aggression to our block checkpoints.
Проте відсутні.
And there's no firing from heavy artillery, no shelling from Grad systems. That's a big achievement. And we understand that the mode of ceasefire starts bringing our enemy to discipline and allows our military to bring closer our reserves. And the main task today is to ensure the regime so that we can liberate all the hostages, Ukrainian military, peaceful citizens who are now in hands of terrorists. That is task number one, and it will be implemented. Any other questions? No more questions, then thank you. The next briefing of the NSCDC at